Hello, and today I'm here with Satvik, Vice President of the Bristol Banking Investment Society. Satvik, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Satvik. I'm a third year economics student here at the University of Bristol, and I did a summer internship recently this year at HSBC in the Global Markets Division.
So, Satvik, over the summer in global markets, I understand it's sales and trading that HSBC do.
Yeah.
Were you more client-facing or were you on the trading side?
So I picked sales on my AC. We were given the choice on that day to pick sales or trading. So I did 2 rotations across sales over summer. So the first one was in FX and the second one was in credit. And kind of your responsibilities as a summer intern in sales and trading, as opposed to investment banking, you're not given any kind of significant responsibility because you have to pass exams in order to be able to interact with clients.
Yeah.
And obviously in order to trade, because you chuck in it like 20-year-old in front of a trading book, you might blow it up. But yeah, so your main tasks for me was a lot of data analysis, because I had stuff about data analysis on my CV, and a lot of stock pitches throughout the 10 weeks. And then we had a final presentation to about 10 MDs at the end, which was a bit nerve-wracking. But yeah, that was a trade idea based off a prompt that they gave you.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, hopefully that's a good rundown.
And then in terms of sales and trading at HSBC, especially on the sales side,
Yeah.
what is the progression like from analyst all the way through?
It's pretty similar to kind of to anyone that's watching. If you're familiar with like investment banking hierarchies, it's analyst, associate. Instead of VPs, HSBC have associate directors, but it's the same role. And then you have a director and then a managing director.
Okay,
I think. Yeah.
As opposed to trading where it would go up and then you'd become portfolio manager and then MD.
No, it's the same. It's the same in trading.
Okay.
To my understanding, anyway. I don't think there's a portfolio manager position in banking. That's more on like the hedge fund side of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, exact same progression in sales and trading across both disciplines. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this summer, what did an average day look like?
Yeah, cool. I'll start with kind of my first rotation because the hours were kind of different on the 2. I mean, the hours were the same, but the kind of points in time were different. So on my first rotation, I was in at 6:30 every morning, which is earlier than I've ever had to be up in my life.
Yeah, it's when the market's open.
Yeah. So for EMFX, which was my first rotation, I was in at 6:30 every morning. I had another intern who was working on a very similar desk. So we were both EMFX, but I was covering banks and wealth, and he was covering real money.
Okay.
So asset managers, insurance companies. And there was an MD on our desk who used to get us together at 7:30 or 8 whenever he was the most free every morning, and we'd do something called a market wrap. So initially it was just kind of pick 3 or 4 interesting news stories that you've kind of seen this morning since you've been in. And then eventually it transitioned to kind of give me kind of 3, 4 or 5 interesting news stories that I could talk about to my clients and explain to me how that's affecting FX markets, and then potentially give me a trade idea off the back of these. And yeah, there's a real emphasis on kind of getting better every day. And then yeah, there's a huge emphasis on networking in sales and trading internships.
Really?
Yeah, like
just going and grabbing coffees with everyone now.
Yeah. I think more so than investment banking, because you can't, like we said earlier, there's no you can't work on deals. You can't
until you're qualified.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do any meaningful work for the desk in kind of inverted commas. So there's a huge focus on meeting as many people. If you're in sales, they wanted you to go meet people in trading and structuring. Firstly within your asset class, but also just across the trading floor to develop a better understanding of kind of the products and like the day-to-day responsibilities. So after the market wrap, I'd kind of sit down, try and get a few coffee chats sorted for the rest of that week. I think a trick is to kind of get all your coffee chats sorted for the next week on Friday, so you're not scrambling. So then maybe we'd go off and do a couple of those. And then I had a project set for me from the first week, which was a data analysis task. So huge client data sets and kind of creating something meaningful out of that for the desk. So I'd kind of settle down, work through that. It's quite nice because you get your own time to yourself. You kind of you feel like you're actually doing work. And then normally on this internship they were quite good. They had these events called lunch and learns. So they'd get someone fairly senior within the markets business, and you'd get in kind of a boardroom with them. You'd get free lunch, which was always a plus, and yeah, you'd kind of talk about whatever you wanted to with them. That was our whole sales and trading internship class with a senior person.
Yep.
And then yeah, kind of more project work in the afternoon, maybe more coffee chats, and yeah, typically that first rotation was 6:30 to around 6.
Yep.
Or around 6:30, and then on my second rotation I'd get in for about 7:45 or 8, and I'd leave the office at around 7:45 or 8, and then towards the back end of the internship, because we had a final project due, the hours were a bit longer. Not that it was expected of you, but you kind of pulled longer hours, and then we came in on a couple of weekends just to make sure we had the project finished. But yeah, nothing too strenuous, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, and how would you say those hours especially differ to IB and asset management?
Again, I can't speak massively to asset management.
From personal experience, yeah.
But I think IB, the hours are better, is what I'd say. You probably 50 to 60 hour weeks in sales and trading. IB's maybe more 75 to 80, maybe even longer. Again, better off talking to Rishi or something. But, I was pulling considerably less hours than in IB, and I think that was kind of perfect for me, but each to their own, I guess. Yeah.
And then how would you say the role differs as you go from analyst to associate and then up the ladder?
I think it's just in terms of more responsibility, really. I think, analyst, you're still getting to grips with kind of the products that the desk offers, whether that be in sales or trading. And in particular in trading, you're kind of working your way up to being given your own book. Obviously that happens at different paces at different banks.
Yeah.
Associate, you kind of come to grips with things. Same with VP. And then again, this might not be a completely accurate account because I'm still only an intern over summer. And then as you get higher up, you probably head into slightly more managerial roles. So you're kind of managing your whole desk, and then eventually you might become co-head or head of a certain region or a certain product within that bank. But I'd take an educated guess at it just being increased responsibility at every step.
It makes sense. Thank you, Satvik. So Satvik, before actually going into the global markets division of HSBC, how did you know that was the role for you as opposed to IB or asset management?
Yeah, so I think I was quite lucky. I did a couple of spring weeks that went over kind of private wealth management, asset management, investment banking and sales and trading. And I don't know, I think I always found myself leaning a little bit more to the market side of things. And then over that summer I kind of just started reading up around markets. There's quite a good book called Liar's Poker. I think that's a really good book to kind of get started on bonds, fixed income and markets. So I kind of started reading up about it and realised it was kind of a natural application of macro themes that we covered in economics into a profession, which I quite enjoyed the macro side of economics anyway. So that was kind of what I did. And then in terms of preparation, I've always had quite a standard kind of method. The ex-president of Biz in first year, Charlie, he gave me a guide in first year, and it's the Wall Street Oasis technical interview guide. I think we've talked about it a few times.
Super applicable there.
Yeah, like applicable to anyone, for any division as well, like investment banking, sales and trading, probably even asset management.
Yeah. So you'd say that's a key resource for preparing for interviews and before the
100%.
job.
Yeah, because they've got a behavioural one and a technical one. And to be honest, I had a set of flashcards that I made, and especially for some of the technical questions, I just kind of drilled it into my head, like kind of going over it again and again. I'm sure there are better ways to do it. You can probably develop like a deeper understanding if you've got heaps of time. But that was kind of me. Flashcards, pretty much. Yeah.
And then actually deciding on doing the role, what actually is the difference between, say, going into global markets as opposed to doing IB or doing asset management?
So I'd say asset management, you're kind of decision making on portfolios. You're kind of deciding what securities you want to put in a portfolio that you're going to sell to a client, for example. But there's various different roles inside asset management, and you might be better off talking to someone that's not me about asset management. Investment banking, you're kind of working with companies as a whole.
Mhm.
So you're helping them raise financing, helping them merge, helping them issue shares, for example. Whereas with sales and trading, there's a variety of asset classes. But if you take equities, for example, which is stocks and shares, as most people would know it, you're kind of actively trading or selling smaller parts of company, so
Yeah.
like the stocks of that company. And then obviously you have FX, credit, and commodities, and they're much more kind of macro. You're kind of trading FX pairs based off macro news flow.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a concise way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. And then on the sales side, as opposed to the trading side, who are those clients that you're actually going and pitching those particular stocks to?
So you have different client types, is what I'd say. So within equities, for example, you'll have two different main client types. You have someone called a set of clients called fast money, and you have a set of clients called real money. So your real money clients are normally asset managers, insurance companies, maybe pension funds.
Yeah.
And they're called real money because they don't use excessive leverage, or don't excessively leverage their positions. And then you have fast money, which are hedge funds, and they're trading a lot more frequently on kind of shorter dated positions. So they're your kind of main two client types. And then if you branch out into kind of FX and fixed income, you will also have corporate clients who typically use the sales and trading desks for hedging. So they're not looking to speculate on the price of an asset. They have real time needs, I guess, because if you're a corporate company and, I don't know, you're based in the US, someone in the UK has placed an order. Someone in the UK has placed an order in your UK branch, but you want all your revenue in dollars. You then have to enter the FX market and convert your pounds to dollars, etc. So that's when your corporate clients come into play.
Yeah. Thank you, Satvik. So Satvik, just to round off, what piece of advice would you have given yourself in first year to better prepare for the role that you went into?
I don't know, it's a tricky one. I think if you don't do economics, I think a good thing to always do is keep up with, well, even if you do economics, because it's not a given as part of your degree, it's a good idea to kind of keep up with macro events that are going on. I think it's definitely relatively easier now because, I don't know, I get stuff on my TikTok For You page and stuff all the time, but that might just be mine. But yeah, I think, keeping up with the news is quite important. There is, I went there for the first time the other day, but we do have a Bloomberg terminal at Bristol. We have a Bloomberg room, which I think is super underutilised.
In Priory Road, isn't it?
In Priory Road, yeah. And anyone can get in, you just need your U card. I genuinely think, like, if you were really interested in it, going to the Bloomberg room once a month, maybe, or maybe even once a week if you're super keen, and just kind of spending some time on Bloomberg, kind of fiddling around, getting to grips with some of the functions, but also just kind of, I think what Bloomberg's really good at is filtering out kind of the irrelevant news, and kind of showing you the news as relevant to traders, and you'll be using the same platform that professional traders are using. Kind of fiddling around on Bloomberg for a bit would be a massive thing that I don't think is a very common thing for students at Bristol to do. I might be wrong in saying that, but that's to my understanding. So keeping up with current events is a huge thing. And then one other thing I'd say, that which I didn't do since first year because I wasn't completely aware that I wanted to go into markets. No matter how much money you've got, you can set up a practice account on a lot of trading accounts. So it doesn't require any kind of commitment of any money. Start kind of having a play around on there. Like, you can trade equities, you can trade FX, you can trade, I don't know if you can trade rates, you might be able to, but get used to kind of the different products. Maybe try and trade some options, see how that plays out. You'll probably lose money initially, but kind of get on there, start trading a little bit of money. That will really help with sales and trading. To be fair, I just talk to as many people as you can.
Of course. I think that's the big one for me.
That's a huge one.
The peer-to-peer networking, coming to this sort of finance type events, just broadening your knowledge as well.
100%. You can Google most things, but I think finance is quite an opaque industry as it is.
And having that personal account actually opens doors to new knowledge that you previously wouldn't have been able to find out.
100%. Yeah, I think I've learned probably the most I've learned from chatting to other people. So yeah, they're probably my 3 big tips. But yeah.
Well, thank you,
So-
Satvik. Cheers.